Hey, what's up, guys? Max Vibes here. So today we're going to talk about one of the most iconic keyboard workstation samplers that's ever been made, and that is the ASR-10. Now, I mean, if you know about music, then you've definitely heard the name, the ASR-10. So it doesn't really need an introduction, but as always, I'm going to give it one anyway. Dropped in 1992 off the heels of the EPS 16 Plus and the whole EPS line of keyboards, which were iconic in their own right. But when this one dropped right here, it definitely ushered in a whole new wave because it was right around the time hip hop was taking a really huge turn into the mainstream of what it was doing. A lot of producers have been known for using this. Now, of course, I've got my iconic Kanye setup, the MPC 2000 XL and the ASR-10. Now, this is my custom one, but nonetheless, it's still the MPC 2000. Mine's been modded out a little bit. I've got the upgraded LED screen, not the purple screen, the upgraded LED screen that's more modern and recent. And then mine has an SD card reader that plays off the SCSI to save, load samples and patches and things of that nature. But there's been so many producers that have used this keyboard and made a living off of this sound and what it does. I mean, you've got No ID, you've got the RZA, of course I mentioned Kanye, you've got, Jake One, the list goes on and on and on of people that have just used this keyboard and made it iconic. And I can see why. If you use it, you can see why as well. I think it's definitely a staple in hip hop. I don't think hip hop would be the same without it. Same thing with the SP1200, the MPC 60, 3000. Like, these were the tools that made the sounds that we love. And I had to get it in my arsenal. And I've had this one for probably 20 years now, a little bit over 20 years. And it's gone through multiple upgrades and things like that. But what I can tell you is, these are some of the best sounding samplers that have ever been made. This is, when you think hip hop, you think this board, you think, like I said, the SP1200. Like, without this, the conversation changes. A couple of things to be aware of if you're going to try to get one of these, and these are notorious things. One, they heat up, they get really hot. It's just what it is. They get hot. There are ways around that. There are some mods and some upgrades that you can do, but they are kind of pricey. If you happen to find one, I would just be very wary of the connections. Make sure you go and check all the buttons to make sure they work. Try to read up on the functions if you can, to at least you can press the button to see that it responds or how it responds. When it turns on, it's gonna go through to try to tune the keyboard. So make sure if you can turn it on, that you turn it on to make sure it fully tunes. And I would try it 2 or 3 times if you can. There's multiple operating systems that are out there. 3.53 is a pretty good one, but there's some older ones out there that are a little bit more finicky when it comes to certain things, and some are a little bit more stable when it comes to certain things. But just kind of do your research on that, see what operating systems come with it. I would also say too, if you can get one with the SCSI, get it, because it's going to give you more storage and saving options. We used to use zip drives with the SCSIs, but just keep in mind, if it doesn't have the SCSI installed and you try to install it yourself, be very careful. These things are super sensitive, and you can fry these main boards, you can fry these boards inside of here super easily if you don't know what you're doing. So I would just be careful if you're going to open these up and start trying to install SCSIs and move stuff around and all that stuff. Just be careful. Also check the RAM. So when you go into the sample function and you go to try to sample, if you scroll over, it'll tell you how much sampling time you have. If you're in stereo, then the sampling time is going to be a certain amount. If you put it in mono, then it's going to double. So check and see how much sampling time you have. Flip it over, pull this little panel off the bottom, and check and see if it's been expanded with the RAM. Now, there's a little jumper that goes on top of that, and depending on which board you have, dictates what type of RAM you can expand, and you have to move that jumper over. Now, not all boards are going to be compatible with all RAM just because it fits. There's certain RAM that certain boards take. Like I said, these were produced from 92 to 98. And for a little while, they had the regular screens that come with the ASR-10 that you probably see. And then they had the purple screens. The only reason they did that was because the manufacturer for the previous screens was no longer making the stuff that they needed. So they switched to the purple screens, which then has a different board that's in it. So you have to look at the RAM, because there's 2 different types of RAM that are out there, and not all RAM plays nice with the other one. Like I said, very, very sensitive machines. Just do your research out there and see which one is right for you, for what you need. But like this is just an amazing machine. And if you can get your hands on one, I definitely encourage people to get your hands on it. It's a little bit of a learning curve if you've never used it, but if you've ever used an ASR-X or you used an EPS or an EPS-16, then you'll be right at home with this thing because it's easy to follow through. But I just want to just jump on here and pay my homage to the ASR-10. Last thing I'll say is if you can get this bad boy, definitely get it. It's hard to get, but this is the expander right here. This gives you 6 additional outputs for a total of 8. Now, this was important back in the day. And the reason is because you didn't have a lot of time to waste in the studio. You had to get in and you had to get as much work done as you could because you're paying by the hour, and time is money. So being able to have this, you can dump your beats out, you can dump your tracks out a lot faster across the tape machine or into the table, onto the board or whatever you were doing in less passes because you could route everything individually. Now, if you only have the 2 outs, that's okay. It just takes a lot more time, but this cut the time like way down because you're able to get it all in one pass or a lot of it in one pass. So if you're gonna be doing studio sessions and stuff like that, definitely get it. If you can't get your hands on it, because again, they're super hard to find, they're very expensive, you can just still 2-track it out and it's still gonna sound good. This thing has over 50 effects and they all have their purpose. But I can't stress enough how good this board sounds. So just wanted to jump out there. I'm gonna have some more videos I'm gonna make really highlighting the ASR-10 and what it's great at. But I just wanted to share this with you guys. I'm Max Vibes, I'm out.